Okay, we're moving into section 3. I'm still going to put this under general knowledge because there's a lot of questions that will be answered through this transporting cargo safely section. It goes with general knowledge, so let's keep going. This is not that long of a section. We'll get through this one pretty quickly. The transporting cargo safely section 3. This section covers inspecting cargo weight and balance, securing cargo needing special attention. Okay, so let's get to it. This section tells you about hauling cargo safely. You must understand basic cargo safety rules to get a CDL. If you load cargo wrong or do not secure it, you can be in danger to others and yourself. Loose cargo that falls off a vehicle can cause traffic problems and others could be hurt or killed. Loose cargo could hurt or kill you during a quick stop or crash. Your vehicle could be damaged by an overload. Steering could be affected by how a vehicle is loaded, making it more difficult to control the vehicle. Whether or not you load and secure the cargo yourself, you are responsible for inspecting the cargo, recognizing overloads and poorly balanced weight. Knowing your cargo is properly secured and does not obscure your view ahead or to the sides. Knowing your cargo does not restrict your access to emergency equipment. If you intend to carry hazardous materials that require placards on your vehicle, you'll also need to have a hazardous material endorsement. Section 9 of this manual has the information you need to pass the hazardous materials test. Now we're talking about the transporting cargo safely. We're not going to go into too much detail about the hazardous material as in the last section we talked about. If you have placards on your vehicle, you must have a hazardous material endorsement. If you have hazardous material on your as cargo, but it does not require placards, if it does not require placards, you do not need the hazardous material endorsement. So we're at 3.1, inspecting cargo. As part of your pre-trip inspection, make sure the truck is not overloaded and the cargo is balanced and secured properly. After starting, here we go, getting ready to highlight some. After starting, inspect the cargo and its securing devices within the first 50 miles or 1 hour. So I'm not sure how they're going to ask that question, but 50 miles or 1 hour. Just figure average 50 miles an hour kind of goes together. So you have to inspect it after the first 50 miles of 1 hour. Recheck the cargo and securing devices as often as necessary during a trip to keep the load secure. You need to inspect again, let's come back up to the top over here, after you have driven 3 hours or 150 miles. So if you can put in the back of your mind as a memory aid, I'll drive 50 miles an hour, 50, 100, 150, that's 3. All right, so 3 hours or 150 miles. After every break you take during driving, you take a break and you come back to it, inspect your cargo. And it really applies a lot to flatbedders and transport haulers of vehicles. These securement devices come loose. It's harder to do in dry van, reefer trailers, intermodal containers. It's harder to do because usually they can be sealed loads, but we can see if anything's protruding through the walls or anything. When you do have dry vans, they have securement devices. They have these E-tracks with straps that you secure them with. They have dunnage, things like airbags to keep things from moving inside, plywood to keep things secure. That's dunnage, things that's going to help secure the cargo inside the trailer. Or dunnage even on a flatbed, but wooden blocks, wooden braces, blocking and bracing. That's going to help secure the cargo. It's your responsibility as a driver to make sure this cargo is secured properly, so take it serious. Weight and balance. Let's go back again. You inspect the cargo when you load it. That's the first time. And then the second time you check the cargo and securement the first 50 miles or 1 hour. After the 1 hour, you have to check every 3 hours or 150 miles. Then after every break or every time you get out of the vehicle, you're going to inspect it. Don't be lazy. 3.2 right here. Weight and balance. You are responsible for not being overloaded. The following are some definitions of weight you should know. 3.2.1. Definitions you should know. GVWR. the gross vehicle weight rating. The load value specified by the manufacturer as the loaded weight of a single vehicle. My vehicle is rated for 40,000 pounds. That's a GVWR. Your tie-down securements that you use. This strap has a braking limit of 6,000 pounds. It has a working load limit of 3,000 pounds. These are types of things you're going to have to know. So the gross combination weight rating. So your GVWR is your gross vehicle weight rating. The value specified by the manufacturer as the loaded weight of a single vehicle. The gross combination weight rating, the GCWR. The value specified by the manufacturer of the power unit. If the value is displayed on the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Standard, you can see it right here, certification label, or the sum of the gross vehicle weight ratings, or the gross vehicle weights of the power unit and the towed units, or any combination thereof that produces the highest value. GVWR, GCWR. The underline is italicized text above is for use by roadside enforcement only to determine whether the driver vehicle is subject to CDL regulation. It is not used to determine whether a vehicle is representative for the purposes of skills testing. Okay, so axle weight. What is axle weight? So you have axles on the steer axle, the drive axles, and your trailer axles. So the axle weight, the weight transmitted to the ground by one axle or one set of axles. So how much weight is on those axles? That's going to be different by your gross rating, right? So on average, without permits, providing you have the right equipment, you can haul up to 80,000 pounds of your gross. That's your gross weight. That's what the vehicle can weigh with its cargo, with you inside the truck and all your possessions. It cannot exceed 80,000 pounds without permits. The axle weight is the amount of pressure on the axles. So if I have 80,000 pounds, can I be overweight on my axles? You absolutely can. We, in trucking, especially with tractors and trailers, if we have bigger trailers, let's say a 53-foot trailer, some are static, meaning they don't move. You have spread axle, flatbed trailers, spread axle, reefer trailers. They won't shift. Sometimes our fifth wheel will move. So we can transfer some weight from forward to backwards, transferring the weight off of a certain axle into another one. Because if I'm 75,000 pounds, I'm not at 80,000 pounds. There should be movement somewhere, either on my trailer axles or my fifth wheel. So, tire load. The maximum safe weight of a tire can carry at a specified pressure. This rating is stated on the side of each tire. So, in general, 80,000 pounds, and this is not accurate, but this is a rule of thumb, okay? Steer axle, 12,000 pounds. Drive axles, if you have tandems, 34,000 pounds. Your drive axles, tandems, or the two axles back on your trailer, another 34,000. 34 plus 12 is 80,000 pounds. Is that 100% accurate? No, and the reason why is because each one of these axles are rated for about 20,000 pounds, except for your steering axle. Most of those are rated around 14,000 pounds. Does that mean I can carry 14,000 pounds on my steering axle? It does not. Your tire also has a weight rating, and if your tire is not rated for 14,000 pounds, even though the axle is, but the tire isn't, you can't put that kind of weight on those tires. So you have to read the tire. There are some more plied tires that have a lot more plies in it that are going to allow you to carry more weight. So I've seen people have 13,000 pounds, but they have the bigger tires. They have the right equipment for it. So in the rule of thumb, 12, 34, 34. Like I said, it's not exact because your axles capacities are different. Just know what your manufacturer is. Your suspension systems. Suspension systems have a manufacturer's weight rating capacity as well. Remember I was talking about that 14,000 pound axle on the steer axle. The axle and suspension is rated for that, but the tire is not. So keep that in mind. Coupling device capacity. Coupling devices are rated for a maximum weight they can pull and or carry. 3.2.2 legal weight limits. I just talked about a little bit of that, so let's get into it. You must keep the weights within legal limits. States have maximums for GVWRs and GCWRs and axle weights. States determine that, even though the federal highways have a rating. I'll give you an example. Federal funded highways, interstates, U.S. highways, they're all standardized across the United States. 80,000 pounds. North Dakota, they have a lot of oil field operations, a lot of agriculture. And what's that mean for the United States and exports? Oil has to get out of the ground and transported to the refineries so that we can have fuel. So it's not something we can sit on. North Dakota has less than 1 million people in the entire state. So we got to do more work with the drivers and equipment we have in North Dakota than some other places. So as long as it's not on a U.S. funded highway or interstate, county routes, state routes that are under state's control, they actually have a weight limit of 105,500 pounds as long as you're not on U.S. funded highways. They just do that because normally it would take 3 trucks to do the same work of 2. So they can get by with less equipment, less drivers, and it gets it to the refinery faster. Same thing with agriculture. A lot of agriculture, a lot of wheat, sunflowers, sugar beets. And if we delay too long, we don't have drivers, we have to have more equipment. It's going to take longer to get it to your shelves and feed the country and the nation and our exports. It's going to rot. So North Dakota gives some allowances there. Florida is another one. They do a lot of intermodal in Florida. Intermodal is containers coming off of ships, going on the railways and the trucks. They still have the 80,000 pound weight capacity there. But if I'm not mistaken, and one of you super truckers can correct me if I'm wrong, but they give you more axle weight. You can't be over gross, over 80,000 pounds, but you can be heavier on maybe your axles of your trailer on your tandem. But it's almost 40,000 pounds if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that's not testable. It's just informational. But every state's a little bit different, so it's hard to know all the states, but know the rules and the limits of the states you're going into. Where do you find that information? Remember I talked in a couple sections ago about the old Rand McNally Motor Carrier Atlas that have sections inside of that. That has a lot of information from pre-trip to emergency numbers to permits to locations of scale houses to weight stations, and it has those weight distributions written in that Rand McNally. So I'm not promoting, they don't pay me, I wish they did, but Rand McNally is, as far as truckers go, that is the, make sure it's your Motor Carriers Atlas. So weights often, let me see where we're at. States have maximums for GVWRs, GCWRs, and axle weights. Often maximum axle weights are set by a bridge formula. A bridge formula permits less maximum axle weight for axles that are closer together. This is to prevent overloading bridges and roadways. So it's weight distribution. You spread it out and you're not putting as much impact into one spot, therefore damaging the bridges and the highways and the roadways. Overloading can have bad effect on steering, braking, and speed control. Overloaded trucks have to go very slowly on upgrades. Worse, they may gain too much speed on downgrades. Stopping distance increases, brakes can fail when forced to work too hard. During bad weather or in mountains, it may not be safe to operate at legal weight limits. Take this into account before driving. Section 3.2.3, don't be top heavy. The height of the vehicle's center of gravity is very important for safe handling. A high center of gravity, this information is important for you to have. Okay, we're talking about center of gravity. High center of gravity, cargo piled high or heavy cargo on top means you are more likely to tip over. It is most dangerous in curves or if you have to swerve to avoid a hazard. It is very important to distribute the cargo so that it is low as possible. This is also a statement that will be in some form or way on your test. So when loading your cargo, if you have the ability to, keep the cargo low to the deck. The lower it is, it reduces the center of gravity, reducing the risk of rollovers. Not eliminating, reducing. Put the heaviest parts of the cargo under the lightest parts. So I'm not going to put my styrofoam cups here and then my steel pallets up on top. It's going to crush the cargo, right? It's not going to be stable. It's going to move around. So the heaviest on the bottom, lightest on top. 3.2.4, weight, balance the weight. Poor weight balance can make the vehicle handling unsafe. Too much weight on the steering axle can cause hard steering. Yes, this is probably going to be a question. It can damage, this is key right here. It can damage the steering axle and tires. So overloading your axles, and especially your steering axles, it can cause damage to the steering and axle tires. Under loaded front axles caused by shifting weight too far to the rear can make the steering axle too light. Think about how it is. So if I put weight here, I may be okay, but let's say I put a bunch of weight here, 20, 30,000 pounds, right? That's going to lift up my fifth wheel, right? Or if I put weight here, it's going to push this down and lift the front up. It's going to be lightly loaded. It's going to be hard to steer, right? Because it's not keeping good traction, good contact to the ground. Securing cargo, 3.3, securing cargo. 3.3.1, blocking and bracing. You heard me mention that a few minutes ago. Blocking and bracing is hammers, nails, and wood, or those types of devices to keep things from shifting forward and backwards, or maybe even top. That's where we use load bars. They keep it from bouncing up and top. So blocking and bracing. Blocking and bracing is used in the front, back, and or the sides of a piece of cargo to keep it from sliding. Blocking is shaped to fit snugly against the cargo. It is secured to the cargo deck. Cargo decks are mostly wood. Some you have metal decks. You don't want to nail into that, but you have other securing devices for that. Bracing, we're talking about those braces that you put in and you may ratchet them tight. That'd be a brace, or a strap that we put across there with the E-tracks that lock in and tighten them up. So that'd be bracing. Blocking would be nailed to the floor. To the floor and walls of the cargo compartment. So this is showing you the wrong way. It's all up here, cargo up here. It's that steel hanging off the edge over here. That don't have a trailer. So this one's all in the front. This is all in the back. This is tilted to one side. See how it's leaning? You're going to be riding down the road sideways. Right way is even distribution. In the middle, because it's one load, you don't want it too heavy here. In the middle, distribute the weight. And this is the same load, but load more center of gravity. 3.3.2, cargo tie down. On flatbed trailers or trailers without sides, cargo must be secured to keep it from shifting or falling off. In closed dry vans, tie downs can also be important to prevent cargo from shifting that may affect the handling of the vehicle. Tie downs must be of the proper type and proper strength. Federal regulations require the aggregate working load limit, WLL, of any securement system to be used to secure an article or group of articles against movement must be at least 1/2 times the weight of the article or group of articles. So what does that even mean? So I have a working load limit strap, and it must be 1/2 times. Let's go back to where I read that. 1/2 times. At least 1/2 times the weight of the vehicle. So I have a 3,000 pound product, 1/2 times that, right? So I want to be overkill. I want the strap to hold more than it is. And if one strap or one chain doesn't do it, you use multiples. Use multiples to get there. So if it's 3,000 pounds, I want to tie it down with 6,000 pounds. If my strap's only a 2,000 pound straps, I may used to have 3 would get me to 6, and I want to use half of that, so I'd use a couple more to keep it tied down. It's overkill, but it's not going to move. Tie down prevent it from moving side to side, front to back, or up and down, right? So if the trailer rolls over, it shouldn't go everywhere. It should stay in the trailer. It should stay tied down. Tie downs must be attached to the vehicle correctly. Hooks, bolts, rails, rings. You can see figure 3.2. This is a flatbed, and you have a header board right here. So if you had pipe or wood or something, that header board would prevent it from coming through the cab. And I've seen that recently on a few videos where that's happened recently, where they didn't have proper header boards or proper securement, and they hit the brakes. That cargo is moving at the same speed as the vehicle is. So if I hit the brakes really hard, now I'm doing 65 miles per hour, that cargo is still going 65 miles per hour. It's going to come that way. So these header boards and bulkheads are very important. These tie downs, you see here, the cargo should have at least one tie down for each 10 feet of cargo. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 feet here, we got a tie down for each 10 feet. And it should, again, working load limit of the weight of the cargo, it should be 1.5. Header boards, let's discuss that, header boards. So you have pipe and you have wood and boards and stuff that can be moving forward. If you hit the brakes too forward, and if you don't have a header board protecting it, that wood can shift through the cab. Very dangerous. So make sure you have that. Again, they call it headache racks. That's an old trucker term, headache rack. Protect you from your cargo in case of a crash or emergency stop. Make sure the front end structure is in good condition. The front end structure should block the forward movement of any cargo you're going to carry. So you don't want cargo that's coming through the top here. That's where my head's at. Up here, maybe the head rack don't go that high, but it's coming over top, right? But still, that causes a danger to other vehicles. Make sure it's secured. Make sure you have header boards. Covering the cargo, 3.3.34. There are two basic reasons for covering the cargo: to protect people from spilled cargo and to protect the cargo from weather. So it may be something that can't get wet, that can't be hauled in a dry van. It needs to be carried on a flatbed for construction purposes or something, maybe drywall or something. You want to unload it from the side of the vehicle, not the rear, and you're at a construction site because that's the type of forklifts they have. You'd probably have to tarp that, cover that up. Sealed and containerized loads, sealed. They're sealed. So when I pick up the load, it's already sealed. I can't open the doors to inspect it. Maybe it's already loaded. Intermodal is a good example of that. It came from overseas or wherever it came from, and I picked it up. I can't look inside of it. So containerized loads should generally be used when freight is carried part way by rail or ship. Delivery by truck occurs at the beginning or the end of the journey. Some containers have their own tie-down devices or locks that attach directly to special frame. Intermodal frames, they may not be, sometimes they're flatbeds, but they have locking devices that lock into the corners of the cargo containers. You've seen these before. They're on the trains, they're on the ships. They're big containers, 20 to 40 feet long, but they're locking devices. Others have to be loaded on the flatbed trailers. You must be secured just like other cargo. So if you're putting on a flatbed and you don't have the locking devices, you need to get some chains and chain those corners down. Again, it can't move up and down, can't move front and back, and you need to know the weight of it so you know the appropriate amount of chains to use. You may have to have more in the back than in the front because when you stop, cargo goes this way. I want more holding it back. Going in reverse, when you're moving forward, 80% of that weight is transported forward. When you're going in reverse, only about 50%. So I don't need as much tie down if I'm backing up, but I need a lot more going in the direction the vehicle's traveling. Double, triple, quadruple, whatever you have to do. Make sure you have the right equipment, transportation grade chains and straps. And when you get inspected, they do check that. They check if your strap is cut or damaged. Yeah, that's going to be a violation. If you don't have the right chains and hooks and binders, that's going to be a violation. If you don't have enough, it's going to be a violation. If you cannot inspect sealed loads, we're talking about sealed loads, but you should check that you don't exceed gross weight and axle weight. So I don't know. I see the bill of lading. I see how much cargo's in it. I load it. I don't know how the trailer's loaded, so I'm going to have to go before I get to an official state inspection scale house. I'm going to have to take it to a CAT scale or a weigh-in area to weigh it to see what my axle weights are and my gross weight to make sure I'm not over gross or over axle weight. It's going to be your fault. You pull into a state scale house, the OT officer pulls you around, you're overweight. No, don't matter. You're responsible, so make sure it's weighed before. And there's a lot of technology nowadays to where you actually have some weight devices that you can actually put on your airlines of your truck, so you can kind of get a pretty good idea of how to do that. The technology is getting so good. If anything else, you can get close before you go to the scale house. So don't cross a state scale house without knowing your weight. Cargo needing special attention. 3.4.1 dry bulk. Dry bulk tanks require special care because they have a higher center of gravity. The load can shift. Be extremely cautious, slow and careful, going around curves and making sharp turns. So dry bulk. Let's say we got grain in a dry bulk container. It kind of looks like a tank vehicle, but it's not liquid inside of it. It's dry grain. You go make a left turn too quick, the weight shifts. Maybe it doesn't roll you over, but you finally get straightened back out. The weight doesn't settle like liquid would, does it? It stays over to it. Now you're riding down the road, leaning down the road. So dry bulk, if you normally slow down before a curve, slow down more. Gently get halfway through the curve. When you get halfway through the curve, gently accelerate till you get straightened back out. It takes more care. It's a dynamic load. 3.4.2 hanging meat. Hanging meat, it's like a whole side of beef or a whole beef. And it's hanging. You got a reefer trailer that's refrigerated and it's hanging down the center of the trailer. And when you're driving left, it's swaying back and forth on these chains. So you make a left turn or a right, you turn right, the beef swings over here. All of a sudden, that's going to get your whole trailer moving. You get a whole trailer of beef, that's heavy. And it's dynamic, so be careful. Livestock, you have no control over livestock. These are types of dynamic loads you can have. There's more than this, but this is just an example of some of the dynamic loads. Livestock, you got a load of live cattle, and these bull haulers, they call them, they got a lot of exemptions because these are live animals. They got to get to destination. These cows and cattle and pigs and everything else are in these trailers. They're moving around. They got legs. They're not chained to the floor. They're moving around inside of it. Those are dynamic loads. If you make a turn too hard left or too hard right, it's going to throw all those animals to the right or left. And if you've ever seen a livestock trailer tip over, it is not a pretty sight. So dynamic load, be careful with livestock. 3.4.4 oversized loads. Over length, over width, and or overall overweight loads require special transit permits. Driving is usually limited to certain times. Special equipment may be necessary, such as wide load signs, flashing lights, flags, etc. Such loads may require a police escort or a pilot vehicles bearing warning signs and or flashing lights. These special loads require special driving care. So, we're coming to the end of general knowledge and transporting cargo safely. Section 3, let's test your knowledge. Let's see what we remember from what we just went over. What are 4 things related to cargo? What 4 things related to cargo are drivers responsible for? 4. Ooh, that's a bunch, ain't it? We're responsible for the weight and weight distribution. We're responsible for securement, making sure we have the right securement. It says what 4 things? What 4 things are we responsible for? Let's go back and look. Don't be top heavy. Balance the weight. Secure the cargo. That's 3. Inspecting the cargo. That's 4. Right? Knowing your weight and balances. Who sets weight limits? States, right? Even though the interstate average is 80,000 pounds, but when you're talking about bridge laws and weight distribution of your cargo and your axles and all that, states are responsible for that, right? So if you're driving in a state, know the laws of that state. If it's a state you've never been to, get out the old Rand McNally Motor Carrier Atlas, do a little reading. It doesn't take long. Eventually you'll have a lot of them, and especially states you frequent, you'll remember them. Covering the cargo, there's another one, right? Well, that's more than 4, huh? How often must you stop while on the road to check your cargo? We said we inspect it before we leave. After we leave, we need to check it in the first 50 miles or 1 hour. Then after that, the next 150 miles or 3 hours, or every time we stop and take a break. So we're always inspecting this cargo. Get used to it. Make sure you do a quick walk around and check your straps, check your chains, check your binders, check your doors. Make sure nothing's moving. Check your tarps. Make sure they're not flying out and you can't see with your mirrors. Make sure they're tight and secure. How is gross combination weight rating different from gross combination weight? Let's go back and read that. So there's the gross combination vehicle weight. So there's your GVWR, gross vehicle weight rating, and gross combination weight rating. The value specified by the manufacturer is loaded, so that's what GVWR is. GCWR, the value specified by the manufacturer of the power unit if the value is displayed on the Federal Motor Carrier Standard certification label or the sum of the gross vehicle weight rating. So overall weight, all right, the gross vehicle weights, GVW, gross vehicle weights. That means the weight of the power unit, the weight of the trailer, with you in the truck, with the weight of the fuel, everything there is your gross vehicle weight. The rating is what that vehicle is rated for. So that's a little bit of differences there. You can get through that. Go back and read it for yourself back again so you understand a little bit better. Name 2 situations where legal maximum weights may not be safe. Weather conditions sometimes, right? Two situations. We just read that. Let's go back and see that again. During bad weather or in mountains, it may not be safe to operate legal maximum weight. So because they asked that question, I'm going to come back and highlight this one. Probably a good idea to remember that, right? So come back to that question there. What is the name 2 situations where legal maximum weights may not be safe? Weather conditions, driving in mountains. So we know the answer to that. What can happen if you don't have enough weight on the front axle? If you don't have enough weight, that means you got too much on your drives and it's lifting the front of your vehicle up. You're not getting enough traction. So you're going to have steering issues. It's not getting good contact to the road. So very important to distribute your weight properly. Who's responsible for weight distribution? Well, you are. You're responsible to make sure it's legal. Axle weight and gross vehicle weight. What is the minimum number of tie downs for a 20-foot load? Remember what it said, every 10 feet? So 2 for a 20-foot load. But also, it depends on the weight of the cargo. Yeah, you have to have 2, but the rating of that cargo tie down has to be 1.5 times higher than the cargo being carried. And if 2 don't do it to get to that weight, maybe your straps are not weight rated for that. Maybe use multiple straps. Minimum is 1 every 10 feet, right? Nobody says you can't use more to make sure you cover the weight of that cargo. Name the 2 basic reasons for covering cargo on an open bed: to secure the cargo, to prevent against spills, things like that, and maybe to protect the cargo. You don't want it to spill anywhere, so we're doing that. Also, protect the cargo. Maybe it's something that can't get wet. Again, we talked about the drywall that you'd use in your house. You can't get that wet, so it's got to be covered. I see a lot of lumber and timber loads that are covered as well. So things that can't get wet and things that can spill, that you want to contain that spill if it happens. What must you check before transporting a sealed load? But sealed, you got paperwork saying, okay, this container weighs 45,000 pounds. Okay. Is my axles right? I can't see how it's distributed. Am I over gross? Am I over 80,000 pounds? If I am, I can't really do nothing with that, can I? Are my axles right? 34, 34, 12? Am my axle weight distributed properly? So that's the 2 things you want to check before you add. And of course, you got a sealed load. You got to check the seal to make sure the seal matches the paperwork and all that. So yeah, there's your general knowledge. I hope it's been helpful. Again, don't try to do all this at one time. Do this in sections. This one just is one of the shorter ones. This is the last portion we're going to go over as far as general knowledge goes. Hope it's helpful. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube so you see the other ones, and you can come back and see it and look at it. Share it with your friends if you think it's going to help them. This is going to be for a lot of our clients that have trouble or need a little help getting their general knowledge, air brakes and combination vehicle taken care of. Instead of having to come to the classroom, you'll see me when you get here to class. But I hope this helps. Do it at your own pace. Give yourself time. Don't try to cram it. Learn one section at a time. Do one video at a time until you got it. move to the next one. We'll also be posting some, I'm not going to put it on here, but maybe in the editing portion, we'll be able to put some links to some of the practice exams you can find on the internet, DMV, Driving Genie, things of that nature that's going to help you take some practice tests and get you through this a little bit better and see what you remember. If you find something on one of those practice tests that we didn't cover here, go back and find it. You got your driving manual, go back and find it and see what it says and highlight it, and it's only going to help you better. Study and get this permit out of the way. You're one step closer to getting your CDL. Again, this is Merle with Commercial Education and Safety. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed the videos. Follow and subscribe.